Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to September, sorry, still in August in my brain. September's Arts and Cultural Subcommittee, Arts and Cultural Affairs Subcommittee meeting. Welcome. I'll go ahead and get started, and if anyone trickles in, I'll say hello. We'll go ahead and get started with approval of the last month's minutes in a roll call vote. And I will go ahead and do that. So I'll start with myself, Andrea Gordillo, yes. Olympia Kazi.
Yes, with the note that there are a few typos, including an inconsistency in the presence. It says P for present, and instead it says Y like yes. So just fix it for clarity.
Okay, okay, sorry, I'm just writing that down. Okay, Wendy Lee, Mark absent, Tariq Ramos.
Yes.
Thomas Rosa.
Yes.
Ricky Wong. Crystal Field. Crystal's not on here. Okay. All right. Okay, we'll move on to the next and only agenda item for the night, which is planning for our Arts and Cultural Town Hall. And we've discussed this a number of times. Obviously, we've been dealing with uncertainties around COVID. And so, yeah, so we had discussed previously planning for a fall town hall. And so, yeah, I would like to open up a discussion as to whether or not we would like to continue with fall and formats. And then I'm also happy to bring up some of previous discussion topics that we had discussed previously, so we can land on a few of some of these.
Andrea, I just want to let everyone know that we got the word about an hour ago that we will be allowed to stay on Zoom meetings until 2022, January of 2022. So
yeah,
you will now be planning a virtual town hall.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I also feel that we're still entering a period of prolonged uncertainty, so I think it's safer to plan it online as well.
Hi, I'm here. It's Crystal.
Hi, Crystal. Welcome.
Okay.
Okay, so I can recap some of the top line items that we've discussed previously. You know, obviously in I want to say, I can't remember if it was 2018 or 19, there was a town hall about Charas, El Bojillo, and the status of it at Theater for the New City. We can discuss whether we would still want to engage that as a town hall discussion. We can Tatiana, who was a previous member, had brought up a sort of resource fair, including agencies, funding agencies, organizations that provide services for artists or artist organizations. Another thing that comes to mind are, you know, community boards, after school programs, arts and education programs. We can talk about whether that would be for teachers, educators, parents, school communities. Yeah, so I'd like to open that up and see just a discussion about timing and about the topics and how we'd like to structure this.
Andrea, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the I guess the end goal for us? Is it what's the end goal of doing the town hall for us?
I think we could also discuss that as well. This was part of what we're sort of chartered to do as the mission of the subcommittee. It's part of it. And so we're charged with organizing an annual town hall that's supposed to, be a forum to discuss arts and cultural issues in Community Board 3 as it relates to arts and culture. So how we want to focus that is focus our goals around that is for discussion. Anisha?
I guess one question is it that the committee wants to give or provide information by convening people, or is it to receive feedback from the community? And maybe, depending on where you see the needs right now of the cultural space, maybe that can be a direction, whether it's to bring people together to convey a bunch of information, or is a time to hear from people.
Thanks. Yeah. Again, I open it up for you all. I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear from you all as well. Crystal?
How would I, what do? Should I say I raise my hand?
Sure. Yes. Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay, I don't know how you can have a virtual town hall meeting.
Mhm.
I wouldn't know quite where to begin with that. I mean, how do you have a virtual town hall meeting?
So I can offer up some quick examples of this. A number of different people, elected officials, organizations, and so on and so forth that have primarily who are working on things will organize it in such a way that it's similarly to like this meeting, right? We would convene the speakers that we would want. We would probably send out like some kind of preview of the resources, or as Anisha said, what we want to what we would want to provide, or what we would want to receive if we want to invite agencies and we would want to get information from agencies, or have a dialogue or discussion around that.
Right.
So yeah, it would be similarly organized.
You wouldn't invite the general public then. You're not inviting your neighbors. You're inviting different organizations, let's say, or representatives of different organizations to attend this town hall. I don't say that's a bad idea. I'm just saying I don't know how you would. Usually the town halls that we've had in the past, we've had, artists come to them and they make their complaints and, and talk about problems. I don't see how that could be. We'd have to go through organizations, I guess.
I think it could be, depending on what are the goals that we want to set. I think we would think about the outreach to the people we would want after that. But Tariq had his hand up for a while.
I think it'd be interesting to Anisha's point, kind of like us receiving, like understanding our approach, if we are wanting to receive feedback or giving information. And I do think that we can do both. I think there could be an entering into this like Zoom virtual sense of us giving information on arts, things that are happening. But I think it might be interesting for the feedback portion if we came up with like 1 or 2 to 3 questions, that will help us gauge the feedback as well a bit, and center us. And then it could be interesting to put our guests in like breakouts, where they kind of break out into those questions and then come back to, so we can all hear it, pick someone to be the leader, reporter, whatever to us. So I think that could be a format that we could play with virtually. But I think a topic I was thinking about it, since COVID, all these variants are happening. I think like an idea for a town hall of like art, like CB3 art restart, like something like how do we restart art in this community with all that's happening, and start having a dialogue around that. What do art organizations need? What are the resources that are needed to help them get started again after this pandemic and to sustain themselves?
Okay, those are all great ideas. Thomas?
Yeah, what I was gonna ask is, do we have a particular group of stakeholders that we want to meet their need? Like, are we reaching out to the arts organizations to see if they're able to function, or, are we, like, I just want to know, like, if there's a specific group of stakeholders, we could target that. And to speak to what was spoken about before, some of the stuff, if we're assessing what's happening in the community, I mean, obviously everybody here is integrated in some capacity with what's going on in the Lower East Side and then Chinatown. We could also maybe even have somebody come to speak to some of those things at our next meeting. But if we're doing a town hall, I think it'd be really strong for us to identify a stakeholder and then see what need we could meet by putting these persons together or the information together.
Okay, also good ideas. If I could just respond to some of them, I think that as far as the stakeholders, there's always like low-hanging fruit is, like artists and arts organizations, and then the community in general, right, who benefits from arts and cultural production in CB3 in general. And I think that as far as like what Tariq mentioned with Arts Restart, I think a very apparent stakeholder there is like arts and cultural organizations who are to some degree like kind of overwhelmed by tons of different things happening all the time. Different guidelines changing, different issues coming up. And so to some degree, I think that perhaps like something very specific to CB3 could be helpful. We could think about setting it up in in like different parts. Another stakeholder is our individual artists, who are often, it's difficult for them to access funding opportunities, or they're just not aware of. So that's another like low-hanging fruit I see, but yeah. Does anyone else have any strong opinions?
Yeah, those are great ideas.
Okay.
What-
Okay. Does anyone have any strong inclinations towards timing? Is like November or October too soon? We had talked about partnering with the council members just to expand our outreach and to also help us staff this thing.
Mhm.
I know that doesn't have to do with timing, but still the amount of resources we need it's part and parcel. Anisha?
It will have to do with timing because our council people, or at least one of them, will change. So depending on which council person, I suppose. I think it's possible to do it maybe. I think the rest of the year is going to be very hectic, depending on how easily you are able to pull all of this together. My only concern then would be if we only know as of today that we will be virtual to the end of this year. So then it'll continue to be up in the air whether it's supposed to be virtual or in person, if it makes sense. So I would say try to do it this year, but I'm not sure when is the best timing.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Tariq, go ahead.
And we're not in, what's our meeting schedule? Is it monthly or is our next meeting November?
It's bi-monthly, but I believe, and I might need someone from the office to confirm this. I believe we would be able to schedule this meeting outside of like a regularly scheduled meeting. Olympia had her hand up first, and then Alicia.
Yes, so in terms of the town hall and the timing and the subject, they all come together, right? So usually we do it in the fall because it helps through the year, both shape the conversation and also the district needs. However, right now, because of COVID, the issues are, huge and they're constantly changing, both from the perspective of artists or art organizations. And so I think fundamentally, we should use this town hall as an opportunity to decide what we are, what are our objects for this year, like what are the issues that are coming up and we want to focus on, because as a committee, as a subcommittee, I guess, we often have difficulty, focusing on an issue and understanding priorities. And I think that's the best way to use a town hall, and doing it before the end of the year would make sense in that sense.
Thanks. Alicia?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think as far as the town hall is concerned, that it should be informational, and because there are several grants that are out right now that people can apply to. I saw some things come through the borough president's office, also through the city, and we can also get the elected officials on board and invite them to come out to share the information. We have organizations that are already on our website that were at the previous town halls, and we should definitely reach out and invite them again. Right now, any resolution or any kind of support we can give to, like, say, Henry Street Settlement, University Settlement, Grand Street, all of these previous organizations that we supported, even I believe it's what's the one that's on I'm sorry, on Orchard Street. I'm so sorry, my mind is like someplace else right now. But there are other organizations that we've worked with in the past that we can actually support directly, because those are the ones that the bigger organizations, and then we have the small organizations that need some support of some sort, that need to know about these grants that are out there. Maybe they do have privy to it, or maybe they don't. But I think that in reaching out to them and just sending an email, just saying, hey, we want to support you. How can we help you? Here's a place where, we're going to offer this platform. Come out and express what your needs are. And then we can maybe, with the elected officials on board, invite the borough president's office, invite our two council members to come out and listen to the needs of these artists, because they don't really have a platform in which they can actually speak and say what their needs are. I don't know, what you guys are thinking about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Tariq.
Sorry.
No worries.
I think, Alicia, I do agree with that. I think, and I agree to Crystal's point in the beginning about the virtual town hall, in-person town hall, and the kind of energy and the difference that has. And town halls that are in person, yes, they're informational, but they're collaborative, like it's feedback, you're talking, you're bouncing things off, and virtually that might be a little difficult. And people are, I feel, running meetings all day. I feel like some people are also afraid to talk, right? Like on a large scale setting. So I do think that we also want to try to keep it engaging too. It would be a night thing. And so I agree with the informational piece. And maybe that could be an email to like a granting organization or representative to send us like a quick video of the grants that are supported, right? Like just send us a quick video, and we as the Arts and Culture Committee could I could piece those videos together, and it's just something we can show during the town hall, and also send to people after as a recap. And then I think the breakout session things are really good. And so Olympia, I agree with your idea on that as well. In some sense of trying to figure out what are the things that we as a committee would like to address, and maybe setting those up as the breakouts for us to get feedback from the organizations and the stakeholders, that come. So I think there's like a twofold here that we could be playing with. And I think breakouts will help people talk more, and also connect. Like we are then becoming a platform for people that this organization might have a resource that we don't even know. And just by speaking up is helping another person at another organization, in a smaller setting.
How
Yeah,
would you do a breakout virtually? I mean, I'm just speaking from ignorance.
Yeah, no, Crystal, thanks for the question. I mean, breakout, it's just on Zoom. So we would create like breakout rooms on the Zoom platform, and it'll send, and you set it randomly, or you can actually set it up, however, but it'll just.
You dial a code or something, and you go
No.
to one room that way, one breakout?
Once you come into the meeting, just like when Linda hit record and a kind of pop-up came up that the meeting's being recorded, a pop-up will
Right.
come up to send you to the breakout, and you just click join breakout.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Crystal, you got here a little bit late, and also I'm not sure how that would work for people who call in.
No, probably not, but we could, but I'm not against being on Zoom. I just don't want to do it until I need to do it,
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I think a town hall on Zoom is definitely better than calling in. I don't think calling in is going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree with a lot of things that have been discussed. I think that, part of the reason why this committee can get a little bit unruly, I suppose, is because there's so many things that are relevant to arts and culture and artists, and there's it's a whole like industry, and there's many different stakeholders, and so I think that the idea of condensing the resource part of it is a really good idea, Tariq, and I think that also we could think about creative ways to get sort of feedback, and I'm trying to parse out a little bit in my mind of how we want to work on like the more hyper local kind of issues, and how we want to get feedback regarding that. I think that, I think the breakout rooms could be a good idea, but I'm also trying to think of ways that maybe, it's like through the chat or something like that. We pose a number of questions or a few separate topics. I had posed a few at the beginning, so I don't know, maybe we would want to hone in on that, but I don't know, maybe I'm over determining it. Yeah, I guess, Anisha, go ahead.
How are we going to work on this if we can only meet every other month? Are we going to have a committee working more or something? I mean,
right. So we've discussed quite a bit now. I think we can agree. I think we're getting to a place where we can agree on like the structure and the subjects and the form here, and then at our next meeting we can kind of parse out the nuts and bolts. The only concern is enough timing, but I think we could figure that out. Anisha?
Olympia, is your hand up from before, or do you want to go?
Oh, it is from before. Okay, then go ahead. I thought it was just
No,
up
it's not
there.
from before. I had it raised again.
Oh,
Okay,
then go
I
ahead.
didn't notice. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Olympia.
Thank you. Sorry, there is so many things. So regarding the resources and grants, right? You know that majority of people already like doing this research, etc., and they wouldn't need us. And also, I'm not sure how comprehensive we could be. I think we should put out a call and make sure that we have a component that is available, but that cannot be the main thrust of our town hall because there are many other organizations that do that professionally, and most people go there for this kind of information. I think what has been unique and great about CB3 and its town halls is the fact that we have a local flair, we have our local electeds, but usually what we do is we raise some local issues, whatever that may be. Like, for instance, even outdoor performances, or I don't know, like it could be hot issues, it could be old issues. For instance, Chares, you know what? Giuliani gave it to himself on the last day of office. Why doesn't de Blasio buy it for us in the last day of office, you know? Like, because it is really so sad to see this thing falling apart, and it could be such an asset for arts and culture for our community. So I think that we should, I mean, unlike you, Andrea, I think we should try to nail as much as we can tonight, because if we do want to have this being relevant, it would be great to have it this year. So with the whole calendar thing, I mean, I'm pretty sure that if we do it with the help of the local electeds, it's not going to be alternate months. As long as we today nail down the most important things, and then they take it from us, and if they organize it and we support it, it's going to be much simpler, even for logistics and time. But it is, I think it would be great to do it in 2021.
Okay, thank you. Anisha, go ahead.
I agree with Olympia with many of the things that she said, particularly that there are already a number of organizations providing information about many of the grants like that. I do think, again, it should be a component where we, you know, maybe compile or see what resources are already compiled by many organizations and make sure that that can be disseminated. But yes, there are many organizations that already do that. I wanted to say that I know that Jackie and I had talked about, because land use has the other subcommittee that meets on alternative days, and they are doing some restructuring as well, or like they haven't been meeting. So Alicia and I can figure out if meeting in October again, certainly if a November town hall or something is what you all want, if that's possible. In order to, you all can like do some planning outside of these main meetings, obviously, but it can't be like a meeting. That's the whole thing. Like you can be on some emails with each other, but it can't violate open meetings law. So there is the potential to keep on planning outside of the committee meetings, but you need to be careful about how that all works. Yeah, and then the other thing is that, like, I facilitate meetings for a living basically now. So there are all of those tools available for gathering input and information, and like things that you can use in order to make Zoom meetings like people who don't want to talk can still engage, whether it's voting on things or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we, as you guys design this meeting, there are ways to continue to engage people and make it more interactive than some of the other town halls typically are.
Got it. Thanks, Anisha. Okay, I mean, I'm generally, yeah, I agree about, I think we can stop discussing, I guess, the resource part from the grants, because I agree that, and the other issue with that too is that in an unusual year, we don't know what opportunities will come or will not come. So we can't really plan around that. But I'm hoping we can nail down a few, I guess, more precise topics. But Olympia, you have your hand up.
Yes, so I had an idea for a precise topic. So it is around artists and the fact that, as you all know, the enhanced unemployment benefits expired, but their work is not back up. And I actually, during the winter, when we organized that march that I was at Central Park, one of the people who joined us is Senator Benjamin, who's now the Lieutenant Governor. And so we could invite him because he joined us on that issue of what are we going to do for our artists that are not back at work, but they are not perceiving unemployment. And back then the issue was they were just cutting down the enhanced unemployment. Now it's like completely zero. So the thing is, I mean, they can have some unemployment, but no enhancement at all. So I think that could be an issue. And if we do that, we could potentially invite the new Lieutenant Governor to speak about it because it was an issue on his agenda while he was a senator. And he has power to help us. So that's why our community will love to have this person and will come to attend.
Thanks, Olympia. Tariq, go ahead.
Is it some, I mean, I think Olympia, I agree. I think having him there is great. I just don't know if I want to like hear him speak on it. Like, it's just the benefits are done. So I'd rather him hear from artists, like, this is what it's doing to me, right? And because we need you to just act on it. We need you to do something at the state level to support it. I mean, he's really going to say unemployment benefits are done, right? Like, what would he speak on to us?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, my idea was not, especially if it's co-organized with the local officials, you can be sure that they will have, there is a savoir-faire, whatever. So they're gonna definitely allow him to speak. The question is, what do we want? Is definitely we're gonna, or if with this becomes an issue, we're gonna organize testimonies from the community about why this is an issue and why he needs to work both at the state level and at the federal level to reinstate it or to create something special for artists, because it is a complex issue. When they reinstate it for everybody, it has a negative impact on other sectors. However, in our sector, because it is so deeply interconnected with public assembly, it really, people really cannot make ends meet. So it could be either a special program only for artists, or like, so we could decide how we frame it, or we can present different cases. But he would definitely speak. Like, I have never been in a meeting where a politician was not allowed to speak, let alone a new lieutenant governor.
No, being in the community, sometimes I'm tired of hearing from politicians. Like, I want to hear from the people on the ground that are having to go through it, and let them come in and just listen and hear, right? And then take the feedback and do something. It's just my kind of, I'm just tired of hearing from politicians.
Yeah, I think this also kind of folds into like how we will do with this information, right? And so I'm very cognizant of like maybe like a simple way to collect information from attendees. Like Anisha said, maybe it's a poll, or maybe it's like just short responses or something like that. But I want to just get a few more ideas going regarding, I guess, topics or directions that we want to go with this. And I want to get everyone's thoughts on, in addition to the ones we've discussed, as like, I guess this is a bit cumbersome, but like arts in public spaces. I think that, there's been open culture, there's been all these outdoor performances. Now there's like the City Artist Corp happening. I feel like there's no real way for us to kind of hear from the community and that, like, the experiences, the issues, and that sort of thing. Yeah, so I don't know, that's one topic that came to mind, but I invite you all to pitch in. Crystal, I hear your.
No, I just, I'm thinking about, what can we offer? And everything that I think of has to do with somehow or other the community board doing it, and then it looks like they don't want to do it. I mean, like, there should be a central place where information about what's happening could go out, to the public. I mean, that we can't offer money because we haven't got any, but we can offer service, like somehow or other, different organizations getting together. Like in the old days, they would get together and they would all pitch in and get an ad in the New York Times, for instance. Well, we don't want to do that, but why couldn't we be I don't know what to call it, a little stew pot of information, because that's what is really one of the big problems now, is you've been closed for 2 years, and you want to get an audience. You want people to come to your gallery. You want people to see your shows. You want, and there isn't the old, you can't go to print because nobody's going to print. And if there could be an online, you know what I'm saying? And that we can be of service to the different artists and the different organizations in the community to get the word out to the public, because that's one of the big challenges right now. People don't know you're open.
Okay.
I mean, anyway.
Yeah, I don't want to generalize, but I liked what Tariq said earlier about the arts restart. Maybe that's like a theme.
I think Art
but again,
Restart is a great title, Art Restart.
Yeah. I could see how some of it might bleed into some of the other topics, right? Like the unemployment benefits, and even to some degree the Chata struggle. So maybe we need to finesse this topic a little bit more. And also my concern is also a little bit like to the extent that the community board has the capacity to do this, and also just like the authority, I suppose. Even though I agree that that this is all like worthy topics of discussion.
Sorry, Andrea, can you clarify what you mean, capacity and authority for what?
Well, I'm just like, Crystal is suggesting that the community board, should engage in a discussion about.
I understand now. I thought you were talking about
startups and marketing.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about this topic in particular.
Okay, thank you. I thought about the rest of the town hall. That's why I was confused. No, I agree with you about the Crystal suggestion.
Yeah. Tariq, your hand is up.
Yeah, it is raining hard. I agree. I agree with Olympia on a conversation on unemployment benefits. I do agree on that. The arts in public spaces, I do agree with that as well. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of feedback from that, especially from the summer as people were doing things outside. We have performance theaters that are also kind of figuring that out as well. So, I mean, both of those topics I agree with. I think they're great for this discussion. the one thing are we today trying to pick a date that might work? Should we think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I could possibly work offline about that, but yeah, we can at least like agree on a few things. But I wanted to get like at least our topics so that we can kind of work like backwards from there. And then a little bit of our structure as well. But yeah, we should definitely discuss the date as well.
Can you just go through the topics that you had again?
Sure. So one that I think is probably not particularly useful was a kind of a resource fair type of thing with a different agencies and organizations that provide art services. And then another one was about unemployment benefits in particular. Another one was about charas, and lastly, arts and public spaces. And one that comes up in this committee a lot is like after school, like arts and education programs. Yeah, but Olympia, go ahead.
Yes, so another topic that I think is very timely and very relevant is this year's city budget had earmarked funds for, I don't know what they ended up calling it, basically equity in the arts, basically about addressing the fact that historically low income, people of color, were receiving less grants because, of course, if you have less capacity to go for these grants, you get less funding. So they set apart funds for organizations led by people of color or catering to people of color, etc. And I mean, as you remember, with the cultural plan, they had found at least 2 areas within our district that were basically culture deprived. And so I think we should look into that and basically understand how many people are accessing that in our district. Can it be extended? Will it be sustained, or was it one-off because this year they had money? Because of course, I think our position should be it should continue. But my concern, even though I just threw in the hat one more topic, is we cannot have too many topics and too disparate topics, because then it's going to be a bit of a chaos. So, I mean, I think we should brainstorm and throw out all the topics today, but then take a breath and decide, prioritize, or curate this in a way that it's not all over the place.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just throwing these things out there that we can whittle down and in order of priorities. Anisha, you just put something in the chat. Oh, this is for like specifics regarding some of the topics, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I just put together the stuff that you all have just been saying and saying like if we wanted to touch on multiple things, it could be something like that. I like, Olympia, your idea because it's been something in the district needs, right? Talking about supporting organizations and communities of color. I don't know any information about that program or how it actually was dispersed, but maybe that's a question for DCLA that could be brought up. But I think these other, the other 3 things that you all have talked about, whether it's a small presentation about resources, an issue about artists, like individual artists, and then an issue about organizations, those could be things that have some sort of like presenter, I guess, if it's like an elected official, and then also time for feedback and like testimony or whatever from the public. And then you could also spend a little bit of time engaging with people on like, what are other things that were not discussed today, et cetera. And it could be interactive or small, you know, like people could just throw in things. And then that could help you agenda set for the next year as well, or things that you haven't heard, et cetera.
Thank you. Thomas?
Yeah, I definitely see we're getting to a destination now, which is pretty cool. What I wanted to mention, I think it would be very powerful, and I had mentioned this probably sometime last year. In terms of resources, obviously the resources are there. I like Tariq's idea, what he said earlier about even piecing together some kind of media, just to give a little snapshot to the people, to let them know what's actually in the neighborhoods, what's available. I also think hearing some testimony at the beginning would be helpful. What I think would be very powerful too would be, let's say, for example, we have 3 different topics that we're addressing specifically, having an expert in each topic talk to groups, like in breakout groups. I recently attended a principals panel, and it was very powerful to hear from superintendents, principals, like there were about 8 of them from different states, and they all spoke to groups of educators in like 8-minute time frames. And a lot got done than just like a regular traditional meeting. Like they actually spoke, the educators were able to speak to the people that were making policies for their districts, and they were able to get stuff done in real time. So I think some kind of format, you know, obviously if we're arts, let's bring it. I said it before, I want to be the HBO Max of of community boards. Let's have some kind of high caliber presentation at the beginning, just to let them know what's available. Then people talking about their needs as artists in the district, and then let them talk to the expert. And you do it on a rotation, that could be nicely packaged within 45, I mean like 90 minutes tops. Just wanted to put it out there.
I would personally love another song from you, Thomas. Yeah, this is all great ideas. So we have a number of topics, and I think we should not maybe we should like close out them and whittle them down. We could even touch base again, I guess, next month or in some other way to decide on them. I have written down there's 5 of them. And I guess my question would be now how we would want to scale, like how we'd want to do the format for this, right? We heard testimony from artists, and then also breakout rooms. So we have that as fodder for thought. Olympia, go ahead.
One more thing that we should consider is, why will people show up? Because that is also an issue, especially with CB3. And so I think we have a great, you know, lineup of issues, etc. But I think we should think of what is it that will attract the people to come. Will they feel that they're going to get some answers? Will they I think we need to come up with something. And sometimes what it works is, you know, having there the commissioner and, you know, whatever, some decision makers. Definitely organization will come. In terms of individual artists, it can be very different. But I think add this in the elements that we're going to be considering when we repackage and organize the event.
Yeah, these are good questions to ponder.
I think November would be a very good time to do this.
Okay, thanks for Tariq.
No, I really do love Anisha's format there. And I think if the purpose for us, I think the topics that we decide, we should be the people we invite, the experts to come talk on those things as like the resource piece, and having that start. I think where we want to start to hear from them, from how Anisha kind of put it into what she wrote, it's like, what are the issues in CB3 that are focused on artists, right? And what are the issues in CB3 that are focused on organizations, right? And whoever's there, just allotting time for each of those topics to have discussion and feedback, right? And then that really breaks up our committee purpose, right? Arts and culture. And then we're probably going to hear all these issues, all of these topics that we're coming up with come up anyway, as people are giving feedback. And then we're able to take that as a committee, going into the new year, to figure out how CB3, our committee, is going to support and help, right? So I think that would be helpful. And then leaving just time if anyone has anything that wasn't addressed, which is what Anisha had, you know, that they would like to leave us with. But keeping this, like the elected people, elected officials present the entire time, so that they can hear what everybody's saying as well.
Olympia, I think you had your hand up. I'm not sure for before. Okay, Anisha.
The last thing for me, I guess, is, there was one other virtual town, or I guess there have been a couple of virtual town halls this year, and one of them was in another committee where it was very presentation heavy. I don't know if you all remember that. It was very presentation heavy, like elected officials and other people talked for like the majority of the time. And I think people really like speaking at town halls. Like that is the public, like that is what they come for, to like say the thing that they want to say. So I think like everybody, like people have talked about this before, like I guess to Olympia's point, like we want Brian Benjamin to come, right? We want elected officials to be there and be present. We want them to say something. And then also we want to give the public the time to say whatever impassioned thing they want to say about how resources are not here or something is not working for them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just like want us to be mindful of that, there was so much feedback about how like nobody got a chance to speak in that other town hall. So we should make sure that we give as much time for like people to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
We see that in our community board meetings. The electeds come in and just talk. They can talk.
Hello, can I say, what about inviting a press agent to come and talk to us about how we can, for very little money, do our own press?
Okay. So like a I guess like that would be a more resource oriented thing.
Who would be willing, I know a press agent who would, I'm sure, would be willing to give all his information out to.
Yeah. I get that. I just don't, I'm not sure how it squares with a town hall format, I suppose. I think this is a good agenda item because it keeps coming up for like a specific meeting, perhaps. Maybe as another part of like this Arts Restarts theme. I don't want to be dismissive. I'm just trying to I'm just trying
I'm trying to get away from politicians to have experts in the field.
Yeah.
That,
I get it. Yeah. But for this is an unusual year in that, they hold the purse strings to a lot of different things.
I don't mean not to invite them, but I mean not only to invite them only.
Okay. All right. I'll write this down as a I think like maybe perhaps as like part of the testimony, like that could maybe someone local in press could offer just like some thoughts at the beginning. Just as we would want to maybe like invite some like artists of note, maybe ones that have been working in public spaces a lot, something like that.
Yeah.
Olympia?
So the more I think about this, my concern is that, once you get the politicians there, they always pass the bucket, right? They say, oh yes, that's true, but that's a federal issue. Or the locals will say that's a state issue, etc. And, I was thinking, why would people show up? Especially because CP3 has a history of like people show up for very specific things. So if we put outdoor performance, you may risk of getting the naysayers of SLA instead of any artist who's going to speak about, the performing in public space. So I was thinking how polemical we want to become. And if, for instance, we talk about, let's say we choose the two major issues, one for artists and one for the organizations. So for the organizations is the funding that systemically has been less for people of color and less affluent people, etc. And then for the artists, the issue has been the unemployment benefits and how they were supposed to be doing a works program, a WPA style program or a CETA-like program. Then that legislation didn't pass. And then they did City Corps that was nothing like CETA. It was basically grants. And so I think, you know, if we wanted to be in the heart of the thorny issues, we could polemically, you know, if they accept the invitation, discuss this. So basically, we do need a CETA. Like, this is a long-term impact. Artists are not gonna, even if everything reopens, artists are not gonna be making a living, a decent living for another 3 to 5 years. So what are you doing? Are you gonna do it at the state, at the city level, but do a real program, not a 5K grant or less, you know? And with the funding, are you going to address the issue of inequality and racism in the arts and culture systematically, and not this year you have some money, so you throw us a bone, and next year goodbye because the agenda is something else? So, like, I don't know, because I was just thinking about all these things and looking at my notes, and I feel like if we want to, that could be a very poignant kind of focus to have and take to a position to take.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm just wondering how much we want to, I guess, like lead, how we want to, if we're framing this town hall as a place for people to, like as Anisha said, right, like there's resources and there's, you know, folks that are making laws. And I'm just trying to think how we want to structure it. If we have like a set of, obviously we haven't been working in a vacuum, right? We have a number of resolutions and stuff in our docket, so to speak. So I'm just trying to figure out how, I guess the how of how we would do that. Maybe some other artists can, sorry, I'm reading Alicia's comments. Okay. Okay, so a few folks want to hear from the artist also.
I think we can pose a guiding question to Olympia's point. I think that like that there is no reason that we couldn't say like, you know, artists have been, you know, really affected right now. And unemployment benefits are like the lifeline for many artists to be able to just survive as human beings, right? In New York City, this is about to end. About to end. What have been the challenges that you've experienced in this, and what do you need to keep on going? How can individual artists be supported more? Is it I don't know. I feel like there's like a little, like you can have some sort of statement, basically all the things Olympia just said, without necessarily being like having a specific thing to support. But I think you can lead people to a thing a little bit.
And I think people will be open, like to Alicia's point that she wrote in the chat, I think people will speak how they're going to speak. And so somebody, if it's something did work for them, they're probably going to share that, you know, because artists are like community, or like trying to help each other. So they're going to be like, well, I looked into this resource, or I got this and I did this. You should look into that. And so I think people are necessarily going to speak up, and it's like they're just going to network and after hearing each other.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about the form of this. I'm trying to think, you know, of, I guess the best way to elicit information and dialogue from folks. And the more I think about all of our topics, there's so much overlap between them that I almost feel like just like a plenary type of thing could also be beneficial, in that, like, you know, you hear about all these different things as opposed to like a breakout room where you would be in small groups. So I see the plus and like the benefits and the drawbacks of both. So I don't know, maybe you all have a little bit more experience or thoughts about that.
No, Andre, I think with the format, I think of where we're now landing, the destination of, like Thomas said, the destination where we're at. I do think that a format of just getting on the Zoom works with this format. Without, you don't need breakout rooms for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thought, though. Does anyone else have any strong feelings towards one way or the other?
I also thought like a polling thing to find out where people, like if we did like a poll of like all the zip codes in CB3, like what zip code are you coming from? And so that they can just like click that. So we can kind of get a sense of like what zip codes are active, like where are the organizations that are active and coming to these things.
Okay. Okay, I like these small details, which I think we can sort of sleep on and then come back to them and work, you know, when we land on a date and invite the council members, we can kind of finesse those details, but all are good and all of them are welcome. So, okay, so we have these topics. We have our, we have a slight leaning towards the plenary style format and some polls and questions, posing questions to our invite people. And yes, we need to think about a date. I personally am partial towards December, maybe on the early side, but I'm open to anyone else's thoughts or ideas. Yeah, Olympia, go ahead.
You know, in a traditional year, December tends to be crowded with too many parties and stuff. I don't know. I'm not hopeful we're gonna have this kind of year this year. But if we do it in December, I would say let's do it the first week. Also, in terms of complications with kids traveling, I don't know, you know.
Yeah. The only reason I'm leaning towards December is to just give us more time to plan. But I'm also not against like early November as well. We can also, I guess we need to decide on a date right now, or at least a few different dates, so we can begin letting them know. Alicia's partial towards first week. Olympia?
So I had one idea that because we do not want to break the open meeting law, etc., if it will be possible next month when we are not meeting, have an item in the agenda of the committee, of Anissa's committee, the economic development, where basically whatever you have worked out with these ideas that we have after talking with the electeds and some members of the committee. And so basically at the committee, you present what it is. This way, if we do want to do it in November or December, we had a public forum in which we discussed it and we can move on and do it. Because my concern is if we leave the conversation here today at this level and restart it again in November, we're not going to be ready for the first week of December.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Do you have thoughts, Anisha, with that work with economic development?
We have a couple things on the agenda for October. It's possible that there might be time. Yeah, we can figure that out. And I'll also check with Jackie to see if the Section 8 subcommittee is even planning to meet next month, because if not, you all can also meet.
Okay, sounds good. And just so I understand, the idea would be to, because I want to be clear. The idea would be to like have a agenda item on economic development to plan the town hall, or at least like present it to that committee as a, I don't know, to present on on what we've proposed. Is that correct, Anisha? Or I'm sorry, Olympia?
No, I was thinking more about an opportunity for the members of this subcommittee who want to participate, come in that meeting and do the job, because they're not going to do the job, and they shouldn't, the other members. So the idea was, because let's say today we discussed all these things, and then you think about it, you speak with some people and whatever, and you come up with something that's slightly different. So if you haven't discussed it in a public forum, etc., then you may be breaking the open meeting law, and you don't make on time to have an open meeting before the first week of December or something. So I was trying to be creative so that you don't have to do something
Got it.
proper,
Okay. Okay. It seems that we are, as of now, the Section 8 will be on the agenda for October. So they are meeting in October, per Alicia. Okay. So I think we did get a lot of things done. We would just have to kind of settle on a date, and then I would coordinate with the other offices to confirm that date, and then we would meet again in November to finalize. Does that sound right to you all? Okay. Anisha?
You can also do a lot of stuff over email, but it's a lot of you getting information and then packaging it and then sending it back, and then packaging it and sending it back, right?
Right.
So it's possible for you to do.
Okay.
Can I say, are we thinking of which politicians to invite to speak at this?
Yeah, we had mentioned Brian Benjamin, the new lieutenant governor, who is not sworn in yet, but will be soon. And then, yeah, we can discuss some of the details of that right now, of our topics, and just like a general direction, and maybe like a little bit of our like posing questions. Does that sound right? Does that sound okay with everyone? And then we can wrap it up after that. Okay.
I think Brad Hoylman would be good, because he's very interested in the art.
Yeah.
But that's just a suggestion. I don't know if he's important or.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of different folks, and we'd have to think about if we want to pose a question to them in particular, or just like like a little bit of the structure. There's a lot of things in the chat, including the DCLA commissioner, the council members, the borough president, and Jimmy Van Bremer from the council.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Olympia, you had your hand up.
Yes. I mean, I agree with Alisa about Gail being resourceful. And also, I think when we're choosing politicians, so we all know that our own representative, Carlina, is running for speaker. And apparently, Gail may be the new chair of Arts and Culture, or at least there is interest there. And so there is some of the, what is it called, the vine, like the thing that you hear around. And so I think, Jimmy has been great, but he's on his way out and he's not going to have any position. So if we want to be strategic, we could invite, but again, the thing is, how many people do you want to invite? Because you could invite also Mark Levine, who's going to be our new borough president, and Gail. But again, the question is, as you refine the topics that we're going to discuss, if the topics cannot be resolved at the city level, then we should shoot for other kind of politicians. If we want to discuss things that can be addressed at the city level, then of course we should go for all this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like low hanging, like just simple, simple details for some of our topics, right? Like the commissioner should most definitely speak about a few of these different things. Like I'm thinking the cultural equity piece, which I'm not aware about news regarding that. And probably arts and public spaces. There might be, I don't know if we would want to invite agencies. That's also a thought. But Anisha, your hand is up.
I was going to add to Olympia's point that in terms of specific people to speak, I think once you have a finite topic maybe, and then finding the right elected official who's connected to that topic as the main speaker, you can invite any of these people to anything, right? Like Gail, Jimmy, all the council people, anybody could come to this town hall, but it's I think figuring out who you actually want to say something, because to Olympia's point, JVB might actually want to speak at this because he is on his way out, and so how useful would that be? But Brian Benjamin, because he now is going to be the source of a lot of power, we definitely want him to speak about specific things around unemployment, maybe other things.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry to get us back on the topic of topics, but maybe we want to just go through them and briefly discuss this, so we don't have like significant back and forth or any hiccups between now and our next meeting. So we have unemployment benefits, right, which are relevant to individual artists. I think we can agree to invite the soon to be Lieutenant Governor. We also have Charas. Does anyone, I think there's a lot of different ways to approach this piece. Does anyone have any thoughts? Senator Hoylman, maybe he's been like had his finger on this issue for some time now, but there's many others, maybe mayoral agency or something. Olympia?
In the past, when we dealt with Charas, it's always good for you, before we decide, to have a conversation with the local officials, so like with Carlina, Harvey, etc., because sometimes there is movement happening, etc. I think what you should convey to them is, look, de Blasio is on his way out. Before he was elected, he promised he was going to bite for the community. I think we should plea one more time for him to do it before he leaves. And then I think, based on what you hear from our locals, I would defer to them because they've really been supportive in all this process. So we should work with them on this.
Thank you. Okay. And then I had mentioned before that the arts and public spaces, then the cultural equity is definitely, I definitely think it's something that the commissioner should speak to and provide, like, I guess, some question and answers about. Is there anyone else you all think should be invited or engaged? I think maybe Jimmy Van Bramer. Go ahead, Crystal. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, definitely Carlina and certainly Gail. I think I think those are two big advocates for art, and I think we should invite them.
Right. Just to be clear, I also I'm pressing a little bit about people that we would want to speak as well. Carlina and Gail absolutely should be invited. But I think these two topics also, and also arts and education, are ones that we're very close with Jimmy Van Bramer, and he might have some parting thoughts for the attendees of this. I think it was Olympia and then Tariq.
What I was going to say is about who would speak. I think we should also be thinking of, so this funding is the result of the advocacy of the Theater of Color Coalition. And I think you may have a conflict of interest because Libertad sits on that, like your boss at Clemente. But I think that if we invite a couple of politicians, we should make sure that we choose a few organizations that also talk about the need, say if the funding was sufficient, was it good, like so that, so I think we should not be thinking only about the politicians as you go through the subjects, but also about the so-called testimonials we said earlier. So, I mean, it's an easy one for me to say Libertad, but it could be somebody else. But we need to, I think, start thinking about these speakers too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Tariq?
I was gonna say, I think, I don't know about it, of course, if you're inviting some elected, that I'm sure they're gonna want to speak. But I think we want to think about people that are speaking that are currently dealing with the issues. Having people that are not even in. I think inviting, of course, Gail's in her current role, but Mark's not the borough president yet. And so does he fully know what's happening in that realm, really? But I think having him come to here so that he's aware going into the role, I think is beneficial. So I agree with the lieutenant governor, as he will be entering his role soon, officially. Carlina, Gail, I think speaking because they're currently in their roles, no matter what happens next and how that switches.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Also, Anisha asked about federal. I think that's a good idea, but I'm not sure who would be the most appropriate person. I think
Schumer.
yeah, Schumer for sure definitely comes to mind, and he might actually come.
Yeah,
talk about SBOG.
He recently attended the Brooklyn Community Board.
Yeah, he's loves to tour, but also he's a proud champion of the SBOG program. So yes, and Chuck does talk a lot. So
He's a funny grandpa.
Figure out how to rein that in. What's that?
But he's like a funny grandpa.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, trying to think next up. So okay. So I think we've discussed a lot, enough for us to start kind of coordinating things. And then we've, as far as the date, it seems like we're all leaning towards the beginning of December. So I'll just go with that. Tariq, did you want to speak? Oh, okay, you have your hand up. Olympia? Yeah.
I wanted just to say, before we commit to December instead of November, can you do a checkup with the electeds who are supposed to help us organize it and see what works best for them in case December is a busy period because whatever?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You'll
Yeah,
have
so
to check with the district office with Susan, and then Susan will figure it out
We'll
with all the
coordinate.
electeds as well. You give her a couple of days.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I think I have enough information to kind of just like start, putting together text information that would go out and kind of boiling our topics down into a few sentences that are like communicable. But does anyone have any other parting thoughts regarding the town hall, logistical or otherwise?
Well, just one question. You can have 100 people, right?
I think we can have an unlimited amount of people. I think the community board probably has a Zoom capacity that's enough for like large webinars and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think at a certain amount though, I think it's like after like 500 or something, or I don't know, some amount in the hundreds, it becomes like such that like the participants like don't show. But I don't think we'll get there. I don't think we'll have, if we get 500 artists, I'll be very surprised, but.
I wrote it that I will be in Russia, and you're so lucky. I love my community. because I'll be 7 hours. I'll be 7 hours ahead. So 6 o'clock, it's gonna be like 1 o'clock in the morning for me. But okay, so I will do it all for y'all.
Right, okay. Are you gone all of December, Tariq?
I'm gone November 26th through
Okay.
December 12th. So, but
Okay.
don't work it around me. I'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
We're in Russia.
I'm gonna be teaching and choreographing.
But where?
I'm going to St. Petersburg for the first week, and then Yekaterinburg for
Great.
the second week.
That's awesome. Congrats, Tariq.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All
All right.
If you'd all like to know, it says you can have 300 participants in a meeting and 1,000 attendees at a webinar.
Okay. 300, 350 or
300 is
300?
great.
Yeah, 300 in a meeting in this format that we're in now, or
That's
1,000 for a webinar, which is like the community board full board meeting format, where you don't see the attendees.
Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you, Linda.
Sure. I know I'd have something to say eventually.
Thanks. All right. Any other parting thoughts? Like anything that springs to anyone's mind?
Thank you, Linda, for facilitating Zoom on my behalf. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to move to vote to adjourn. And I'll take a roll call vote.
Second.
Andrea Gordillo, yes. Olympia Kazi,
Yes.
Wendy Lee, Tariq Ramos,
Yes.
Thomas Rosa,
Yes.
Ricky Wong, and Crystal Field.
yes.
All right, cool. All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate all your thoughts and good to see you all. And I hope I see you around the neighborhood. Have a good night, everyone.
Well done, all. Good night.
Good night.